And get ready to dive into the heart of local sports action. Broadcasting live from the heartland of Missouri, welcome to the SEMO Scramble on SEMO ESPN. It's now time to catch up on the latest local highlights, in-depth analysis, and interviews from the Boot Heel and beyond. Here's your host, Rusty Hendricks.
Oh, yeah, good Saturday morning to you. It's the SEMO Scramble here on SEMO ESPN Radio, 1220 AM, 93.5 FM, and online, SEMOESPN.com. Hey, don't forget about the free SEMO ESPN app. It's a free download on your Apple or Google Play Store. Just go ahead and download that. All kinds of cool features on there, including the podcast page. And make sure and listen to former shows, and even after the show today, at some point we'll get the show up. You can listen to it if you missed part of it, some of the interviews, things of that nature. So again, on our podcast page and even online at SEMOESPN.com. All right, Rusty Hendricks with you. A lot to get to today. We got some big high school football quarterfinal action today. 3 kind of big matchups in our area, if you will. We're going to talk about those today. We'll touch on a little bit of St. Louis Blues and Cardinals, some things going on there. Mizzou, Oklahoma today. Who's on upset alert in NCAA football? And we're going to have Cole Lee and also Caleb DeLoach joining us later on about 9:45 to break down that CBC Jackson matchup at the Pit. But first, we're going to talk with Bobby Alford. He's with Aycorp Sports. He's going to be covering the Dexter and Lift for Life game today in Melville. So Bobby's with us this morning. How we doing, man?
Great, Rusty. Thanks for having me on today.
Glad to have you with us and excited. Should be a fun day again. So, man, anytime you get into playoffs in any sport within high school, I love to talk about it and love to see what our local teams can do. But first, before we get into some of the matchups today, they did release this week the Card Trophy and the Derlin Moore Award, and there's other awards part of that banquet as well. And to me, those are the premier awards, if you will, for high school football. Of course, during the summer, they announced some of the SEMOBALL awards. They announced the all-conference teams. Those have been released, things of that nature. But to me, the Card Trophy, the Derlin Moore, those two kind of has a little extra to it, in my opinion. So we saw Drew Parsons get the award for the Card Trophy. So what that means is the best offensive player in the area and the best defensive player in the area, the Derlin Moore Award, and Jason Hovorovich of Dexter winning that. Your reaction to those two winners, did they get it right this year?
You know, I look at that deal, and the offense, I kind of feel like they did. You got to look at Drew Parsons and what he did this season. He did that in basically a half to 3/4 of a football game.
Yeah.
Basically, he sat on the sidelines and cheered on the second string the whole fourth quarter most of the year. So to put up those numbers and doing what he did, you really got to admire what the kid did. They couldn't have gone wrong if they'd have put Sammy Bryant or Devin Turnbull there either. I thought those young men had great seasons as well. But I think overall, just as an offensive standpoint, what Parsons did probably put him over the top. The best athlete, I think, could have been Devin Turnbull, but just the offensive numbers, I really do like Parsons there. And on the defensive side, Jason Hovorovich, I think he has maybe 132 tackles this season. I think maybe 28 tackles for a loss.
Wow.
Those are tremendous numbers. That young man plays downhill. He's a hard hitter. I think he now has like 307 tackles for his career at Dexter. I think they got that one right. An interesting note there, he is the first defensive player at Dexter ever to win that award. I think Alex Becker won it as an offensive player at Dexter, but the first defensive player to ever win the Derlin Moore Award at Dexter.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing what he did. And he plays on the other side of the ball, too, as does Devin Turnbow. So pretty impressive that those guys doing it on both sides of the ball. And you mentioned it. I mean, I agree. I mean, if I had to pick, I don't. I think I would have went with Sammy Bryant. But, I mean, look, you can go with any three, and I'm totally okay with that. Because, look, like you mentioned, with what Turnbow was able to do on both sides of the ball, I mean, he was elite on both offense and defense. Again, Parsons leading the undefeated season and just the dominance that Jackson has had this year. And then Sammy Bryant. I mean, listen to this. I mean, this guy, Sammy Bryant, over 100 touchdowns in his career. Over 100. I mean, that is insane to me.
And I think that's one thing you see with Caruthersville. Sammy Bryant is Caruthersville. Now, Jackson, they like to pass football, and they've got a really good running back in Hampton. But, Parsons has kind of been the engine that makes them go, creates a lot of things. At Dexter, it is Devin Turnbull, but the way Chad Jamerson runs his offense, it's generally not going to be a one-man show. Caruthersville was one more of a one-man show there, so not to say that Jameson hurt Devin. I don't want to say that at all, but, his offense, he gets a lot of people involved. So kudos to him, and it actually kind of works against an offensive player maybe in that set. But Sammy Bryant, the numbers he put up, I mean, that's quite impressive.
Absolutely. All right, let's get into some of the matchups today. So in Class 1, again, state quarterfinals with a chance to go to the state Final Four. We already know that who they might play, but Hayti and Van Far here today at 1 o'clock. Again, it was Salisbury and Putnam County on the other side. So Putnam County with a victory last night. So their ticket has already been punched. So the winner of Hayti and Van Far would play Putnam County. But Hayti and Van Far, to me, Bobby, I think Hayti with their athleticism, with the way they've been clicking here kind of down the stretch, it's been kind of an up and down year for them, really. Some injuries throughout, again, kind of figuring things out at the beginning of the year. But I think they have a real shot to win today. Do you agree?
I think so. As long as they keep it together up front, kind of small up front, but as long as they keep out of the penalties, I think they've got a great chance to win. They've got a lot of speed out there, athleticism. And this play team has peaked at the right time because J.C. Ford goes out early on in the season, their quarterback, and they struggle some up early on. When he comes back, you can tell this is a different team. That they're really playing at a high level right now. A lot of folks thought that Hayti was probably going to come out of that district as the 3 or the 4 seed, maybe I think the 4 seed.
Yeah.
And now they have quite impressive.
Absolutely. All right, I do want to jump up to Class 6 now. I want to go farther in depth later in the show, but Jackson and CBC, you talk about a heavyweight matchup. I think it's pretty clear. If you look at the entire state and all classes, these two teams, Bobby, you could argue that maybe the top 4 teams in the entire state, those two teams are within that realm here playing each other at the pit today. I think CBC, they're going to be kind of the favorite going in because all the guys that have been recruited there at CBC that are chances to go on to Division I and other places. My question is, can the Jackson defense slow down their offense? Because that has been elite for CBC. Maybe who wins kind of the penalties and turnover battle today? Do you give Jackson a shot because they're at the pit today? What do you think?
First of all, I think CBC would really use the word moved in, not recruited. Those schools do a good job of that. Look, you're talking a different set of animals here, but I love the way Jackson's defense played. They haven't been scored on a lot this season. I think early on when they played Cardinal Ritter this year, that was a good game. We carried that game, and that was a close game. But, they have not been battle-tested this year. That's a good thing and a bad thing. It worries me a little bit because how they react, if they have to play from behind or tight games. That's a little worry of the offense and defense. Jackson has not played a full 4 quarters in a long time. So that's a little worry, too, is stamina in this game. CBC was in a shootout last weekend, so their starters stayed in that whole game, putting up 77 points. But, man, you've got to like some of the kids on Jackson. I think Jory Toma is one of the best wide receivers in the area. Sure. He has looked really fine this year, runs great routes. And Parsons loves to throw to him. The running back, the line up front. But the defense has been so dominant this year. I think they'll need a good day. But, the environment. I think that's another deal to talk about. But I love the environment that Jackson's going to be able to bring.
I saw a message earlier on social media, Bobby. There was a picture taken. They said the first fans there at the pit started lining up at 6 a.m. this morning. Unbelievable. It's going to be nuts there. They're going to be tailgating all morning there in Jackson. All right. The game that you're covering, again, Bobby Alford with us of Aycorp Sports. They're going to be carrying the game here today. Dexter and Lift for Life. That game's going to be in Melville. So let's break it down. I think Dexter has a chance. I think it could be a low-scoring game between these two teams. For Dexter, I talked about Hayti being maybe the more athletic team in Class 1 in their matchup. I think that's how it is for Lift for Life. They got athletes, and if they get in open space, watch out. So for Dexter, they got to limit some of those big plays, Bobby. But in your opinion, what is Dexter's path to win here today?
I think Dexter's path, number one, the only game I've covered to Live for Life this year, they had a lot of problems up front on the offensive line. Dexter needs that to go their way today. They need Live for Life to kind of beat themselves. The other part of that is I think Dexter's got to control the football. And if you look at Dexter's numbers this year, they've scored a lot of points. So an explosive team, but I think Dexter's path to win today is not explosive. I think it's 3 yards, first down, control the clock. Keep that offense off the field for Live for Life. I think that's going to be a large key for Dexter in this game.
Do you have an X factor? What's your X factor for today?
Who, in favor of Dexter?
Yeah, in favor of Dexter.
I think you're going to see, which I've got a lot of thoughts on this game, but I think you're going to see Live for Life probably load the box. I mean, they may be in a cover one, but they're going to walk that safety down pretty close and get 10 in the box because of what Turnbow can do and what he does. I think finding a blown coverage out there for those guys and a big pass that they don't see coming, which Langston Warnock has great speed out there. He could be one that slips past the defense. I think that's going to be an X factor when they least expect it to hit them there. And the defensive backs. Dexter has some defensive backs that's really experienced. 3 of the 4 of them are multi-year starters. So I think they'll play key in this game. I think Dexter has to have a couple turnovers in this game to win it.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's going to be a fun matchup for sure. And again, Bobby Alford of Aycorp Sports going to be covering that. You're also going to be helping to cover the SEMO Conference basketball tournament. Believe it or not, that's just around the corner after the Thanksgiving holiday. So let's do just a mini basketball preview here before we let you go. So the SEMO Conference tournament is out. I don't know if you had a chance to see it or not, but Cape Central with the number 1 seed in the tournament this year, Sykeston number 2, Jackson 3, Dexter 4 with Charleston 5. Just early on without, seeing any of these guys, who do you got winning? What do you think?
About a week ago, 2 weeks ago, we had an internal deal with Aycorp Sports sent out, and I kind of filled one out, and I put Jackson as my winner. I like the Ernst kid. I like Jory Tomo when he comes back down low. They got good size and they can shoot some. I really like them. I just don't know what Cape Central's got. That's kind of been a mix of players coming in and out the last couple of years, and consistency. Year 2 under the new coach. So I don't know what to expect for as a development there. But of course, we'll see it soon. I would still like Sykeston too. I think Sykeston's got a chance to make a run there. Those are the top 3 teams. Dexter, I think, is in that next tier down. But the interesting thing about Dexter, that they've got the 4 seed for the first time in maybe forever.
Yeah.
So that's interesting for Dexter. How far can you go get a better seed and sitting there in the play-in 8 and 9 games? So I think that's very key for the Bearcats there.
Yeah, Dexter with that district championship last year and pretty much everybody back again this year. They're going to be good. Yeah, I think there could be some pretty good parity this year with teams in the SEMO Conference. They can kind of beat up on each other. I think it'll be interesting this year. But outside of the SEMO Conference, we'll end with this, Bobby. What are some of the other best teams in the area in your mind? Maybe think some smaller schools. So, again, we mentioned some, but again, outside of the SEMO Conference, who are some teams that come to mind this season that can make some noise?
I'm going to start off with Puxico, and it's going to be interesting how teams want to play them this year. Bertrand has a name, and until they can show me if I face guard him and other kids can beat me, I think that's where you got to look at that team up because they are tough. Man, they are tough. Coach Finetti has a great thing going over there right now. That's the hottest thing in town at Puxico's basketball.
Yep.
Bernie, that same class up there, Bernie can challenge, I think. The Aycock kid can play down low. He can slide out and shoot some. They've got great outside shooters. They just got to be able to stay hot enough and keeping games that way. But I think Bernie can really challenge there and make that a fun district. Smaller schools than that, I think that Class 1, Leopold and Delta, well, they're going to be fun because Delta can score. I'm intrigued by New Madrid. They got the 9 seed, by the way, at the SEMO Conference Tournament. But, man, they got some young kids and young talent coming that I've heard people kind of compare to that freshman year of B.J. Williamson and Jadis Jones. And if that turns out to be true, well, we're about to be in a treat for the next 4 years. So, some of the small teams I've got in mind there, I'll tell you another small school is up and coming. It won't be this year yet, I don't think, but next year, Clarkton. Nobody's talked about them. They got 2 8th graders who are really good basketball players.
Okay, I like that. I'll throw a couple other teams in. I think Woodland's going to be good again. Obviously, with Kinder in there, he's going to help them. Hayti, I think, could be pretty good this year as well for a small school. But yeah, it's going to be fun. And again, just around the corner, basketball about to start. Believe it or not. And again, the district alignments just released yesterday. So before we let you go, think about this, Bobby. Similar to last year, but the Class 2 District 3, okay? We got Puxico, Charleston, Bernie, and Chaffee all in the same district, and Bloomfield. I mean, you talk about a gauntlet for a district. That is a tough district.
It's going to be a really tough district. And I'll tell you, live on Aycorp, we're going to get a chance to see a lot of those teams in that district early on the season. I'm going to kind of run through a little schedule we've got, but we start out the day after Thanksgiving at the River Bend. Then we flip to the Oran and Bernie tournament, covering both of those at the same time. A lot of those teams you just named will be in those tournaments. Jump to the SEMO Conference, then to the Clarkton Holiday Tournament, and then to the Bloomfield Christmas Tournament and the SEMO Christmas Tournament as well, the Southeast Missouri Christmas Tournament. So carrying all of those, we're going to get look at a lot of these teams and kids. But that one you just named there, early on, that Oran and Bernie tournament, most of those teams are going to be competing in that tournament, one of those two. So we're going to get a look at some really good Class 2 basketball there.
Absolutely. Well, Bobby, I appreciate you joining me this morning. Have a great call today for Aycorp Sports, and go get Dexter a victory.
All right. Thank you very much, Rusty. Have a good one.
You too. All right, that is Bobby Alford of Aycorp Sports. They do a great job of covering high school sports and taking a look at Dexter and Live for Life today. All right, before we go to break, real quick, staying on the high school theme, do want to say congrats to Perryville Soccer. They ended up falling yesterday, a 2-1 to Principia. Boy, tough matchup there in the semifinals of state. They'll play for third place today against Harrisonville, so good luck to Perryville Soccer. All right, take a break. When we come back, talk a little St. Louis Blues, St. Louis Cardinals. Is it time to give up on the Blues? We'll answer that coming up next on the SEMO Scramble.
Turn it up.
Welcome back, SEMO Scramble here on SEMO ESPN. Boy, it's been a tough stretch for the St. Louis Blues. Another tough, heartbreaking loss on Thursday night. A 3-2 game. They were up in that game 2-0. The worst lead in sports, right? The 2-0 lead in hockey. They were up 2-0 in that game. They ended up blowing it, losing an OT. Hey, they got a point. Yeah, got a point. But they lost again. Blues are now 0-6 in overtime this year. 0-6. They have not won an overtime game this year. Ugh. So, look, now they have a record of 9-6 on the season. That's their record. 18 total points, okay? That's it, 18 points. Only 2 other teams have less points than the Blues this year. The Nashville Predators and the Calgary Flames. So the Blues, 30th out of 32 teams in points. 30th. That ain't good. Look, I know there's time, but boy, looking pretty bleak right now. Look, that's kind of the thing with them, right? I mean, look, they've scored a point in 7 of the last 9 games. But they've only won 3 of the last 9 games. So, yeah, points are great, but you got to start winning. They're not scoring goals. They're getting better goaltending, but the defense has been terrible, really, especially the fourth line. They don't have a back line with the defense, kind of that third line defense. That they don't have it right now. It's not working. They're playing their top guys a lot, especially on defense, but even their top guys on offense, I mean, they're not producing. I mean, Pavel Buchnevich, where you been all year, bud? Where you been? Hasn't scored a single 5-on-5 goal this year. Not a single one. I mean, we're a good chunk into the season. I mean, it's frustrating. But look, Blues play today, 2:30 p.m. against the New York Islanders. You think they're going to win today? Have you had a bet on it? You think they're going to win today? Look, I hate to be doom and gloom, but I guess that kind of we're at the point where you start thinking about, okay, is it time to start thinking about next year? Is it? I mean, is this season lost? I'm kind of on the fence with that. Look, I think so. I think you do have to start thinking about next year. That would be my opinion. Yes, I remember 2019 where the Blues were, not playing well. They were towards the bottom of the barrel. Then they make that miraculous comeback after the turn of the calendar and, glory and all that, right? I get it. But I don't know. I mean, is the playoff chances completely gone? No. But, boy, I don't know that they have the same moxie as that team, the same kind of ingredients as that team had. We'll see. We'll see, man. But they need to get going, and they're on a little bit of a road swing. They won't be back at home until Black Friday. They play, again, the Islanders today, then and the New York Rangers on Monday, and then the New Jersey Devils on a Wednesday. So a little bit of that kind of a northeast swing there. You just want to see better hockey. You just want to see them playing better. And, Doug Armstrong and the management group, they might have to start making some decisions for, okay, let's see what it looks like for next year. Let's get some of the young guys in there. Thinking about trades. Maybe we need to get, find a trade for Braden Shin, an aging player. And some of the other, we'll see. Start getting a few of the contracts off the books. You have to start thinking about it. So we'll see what the Blues do. Again, I think really they need to give me something here by the end of the month. After today, they play 4 more games for the rest of the month. They need to show me something. And if not then I think you do need to start thinking about next year. So we'll see. Blues been frustrating so far, but hopefully they can turn things around. All right. St. Louis Cardinals, a couple of kind of timelines and moves this week. We had had to get the 40-man roster in place, right? With the also the non-tender deadline, things of that nature. The Rule 5 coming up. So Cardinals, they added 4 players to their 40-man roster this past week. Joshua Baez, Leonardo Bernal, Cooper Jerpy, Bryson Motts. I think all definitely deserving. You could argue maybe some other ones, but I think definitely deserving there. And then yesterday, in the non-tender deadline, the Cardinals announced that they opted not to tender contracts to right-handed pitcher Jorge Alcala. Remember, he came from, we picked him up off waivers from the Red Sox. He was okay, but, that's fine. I get it. Left-handed pitcher John King, yeah, totally fine with that. Joel Pozo. Now, Pozo, I wouldn't mind keeping. I think you could still probably sign a minor league contract with him and an invite to camp. I think you could still do that. I think likely he would pass through waivers. And then Sim Robersa. Robersa, a guy that had Tommy John, a guy from the Netherlands that in the minors that, had promise. Not a flamethrower, but a guy that has promise. I would like to see him come back as well. We'll see if he passes through. Because of the injury, I think likely, and that's probably why they didn't add him. So I'd like to see him back if possible. But again, I don't have any issues with what they did there. I will say, mention this real quick. Former Cardinal and now former Texas Ranger Adolis Garcia was also non-tendered. Interesting. Former Red Hawk, SEMO Red Hawk and Giant Joey Lucchesi was also non-tendered. So both of those guys are out there for the picking as well. But look, going back to the Cardinals, again, no real issues with kind of the news for the Cardinals. The only guy kind of surprising left off the 40-man was Blaze Jordan, who the Cardinals added from Boston for Steven Match. Remember that in the trade? Because it's a guy from Boston that Chaim Bloom knew, and he kind of handpicked him to come back in the trade. I thought, okay, maybe he would be protected. He wasn't. Again, doesn't mean that he won't be still part of the system. Cardinals, if he passes through, no other team claim, Cardinals can still get him. But right now, the 40-man sits at 37. So I'm fine with the move so far. But last thing I'll get to, has Chaim Bloom kind of shown a blueprint of what is to come? Has there been some breadcrumbs? Look, I think there has been. There's been some breadcrumbs, but I don't know that we fully know kind of the plan or what Chaim Bloom will do this offseason. I think it makes it more intriguing for a Cardinal fan because, look, there hasn't been a lot of intrigue for Cardinal fans over the past few years. They're still kind of in that rebuild, revamp mode, right? But what can the Cardinals do this offseason? Can they shake it up? Personally, I would just like to see some moves. I don't want to see just more of the same. I want to see some different things mixed in there, different ideas that Chaim Bloom's throwing to the table, some of his group that he has in place. Arenado and Gray, could they be traded this offseason? Is that going to be a priority? I mean, will the Cardinals pull the trigger and get a good return for Donovan? It's been reported that, hey, he's highly thought of this offseason, Brendan Donovan. I think if you do trade Donovan, I like Donovan a lot. I like to keep him, but if you can get a good, controllable starting pitcher with at least, kind of a number 3 starter, if you will, floor, maybe a number 2, I think you pull the trigger on that. Are we going to see some interesting trades, some free agent signees? We saw Phil Maton just sign last night, actually, with the Chicago Cubs, former Cardinal from last year. So I say all of that to say this. As much as you read or hear from others, I don't think we exactly know how Bloom's going to form this offseason. But again, I do think it'll make things a little bit more intriguing. So far, no qualms, no issues with the moves that have been made. Things will start tightening up. Free agency gets to rolling around a little bit more. You start seeing maybe some trades here and there. Then we'll start seeing maybe, okay, what's kind of the idea and the plan? We can kind of maybe piece it together, what Chaim Bloom and his team will put together for the Cardinals. So I just want to see improvement. I want to see a little bit of a shakeup and maybe some commitment to certain guys as well. So we'll see. Off-season coming. Cardinals Caravan coming in January. We'll be there for that as well. So, look, keeping an eye on a distance for what the Cardinals are doing this offseason. All right. College football, some big games going on this weekend. We'll talk about it coming up next. Mizzou, Oklahoma. We'll break it down after the break. Welcome back. SEMO Scramble, SEMO ESPN Radio. Rusty Hendricks in studio, live here on KGIR, SEMO ESPN. Little sports roundup for you. All right, Mizzou, Oklahoma, 11 a.m. today. 11 a.m., big matchup here in college football, top 25 teams. If Mizzou can find a way to win today, that would probably end the playoff hopes for Oklahoma. Now, I don't see Mizzou anyway getting in, but this would be a nice win. Hopefully they can get a good bowl game. Maybe they can swing Eli Drinkwitz to stay. We'll see. But look, hey, Pete Thamel reporting that Bo Pribula looks like he's going to get the start today for Mizzou. It hasn't officially been announced, but that's kind of what the thought is. So if you put Pribula in there, do you give Mizzou a shot? I mean, I do think both quarterbacks could play today. I think Matt Zollers will play. I do think regardless he's going to play. But if Bo Pribula actually does get in today, that'll be interesting. And a guy that didn't expect, he thought he'd be done for the year. Maybe see him at the very, very end of the year. But, look, I wouldn't bet on it, Mizzou winning, but it could make it more interesting for an upset. And again, for Mizzou to win the ball, they're going to have to run the ball and run it well. Ahmad Hardy, 300 yards against Mississippi State. Yeah, they're going to have to do that. Oklahoma, one of the best defenses in the nation, so that's not going to be easy. Not a bit. Not going to be easy. But who are some other teams kind of on upset alert? I think, we'll see. I think that USC-Oregon game, that's on upset alert to me. Pitt, Georgia Tech, that's another game to keep an eye on. BYU, Cincinnati, and Mizzou, Oklahoma. Those 4 games in particular, there's a couple others, but in particular, kind of on upset alert a little bit today. Look, we have kind of the blueprint for the teams in the college football playoff. We kind of know, okay, if teams win, they're in. If they lose, they're out. We kind of know how that it is. So it's a big game for Oregon. If they lose, that's going to be tough. I mean, you know for USC, if they lose today, they're done. USC, if they lose against Oregon, they're done. Pitt and Georgia Tech, I mean, if Georgia Tech loses, they're done. Again, if Oklahoma loses, we kind of know the blueprint here. So, but the top 2 games that have the best chance to be an upset, to me, would be that Oregon-USC game. So that's one to keep an eye on. And then Georgia Tech, Pitt. Those 2 in particular, I'd have to take a look at as well. All right. Eli Drinkwitz, is he gone? Head coach for the Mizzou Tigers? I think most likely the word is probably going to Penn State. That's kind of the spot that's been linked to him the most. I would like to see him stay if you're a Mizzou fan. I don't think for sure. We don't know for sure, obviously, but boy, I don't see him staying. I really don't. But if he stays, that would be awesome for Mizzou. If he doesn't stay, I would go after that Tulane coach. That would be my push if I'm Mizzou. All right, Lane Kiffin reportedly offered over $90 million for the LSU job. For LSU, Florida, Ole Miss, all expected he would get over $13 million a year. Now, they said supposedly they'll make an announcement after the Egg Bowl for Lane Kiffin for the official announcement. Where does he go? I think he goes to LSU. That would be my guess. But I think his best fit would actually be Florida. I think that would be his best fit. I think he suits Florida, that environment better. Maybe he stays at Ole Miss. And honestly, I wouldn't think that'd be a bad decision. I think he has it going well. Expectations aren't going to be as high there. I think he could do well there, continue to recruit. I mean, he's in the SEC regardless. So either way, I don't think it would be a bad decision, but my gut says LSU, and that's kind of where everything, the where you link him to. But anyway, Lane Kiffin, he's going to make a lot of money regardless. All right, SEMO football, Lindenwood, last game of the regular season. It's a 1 p.m. game today. It's the game ball brawl here this afternoon. Lindenwood, 5-6 record, 4-3 in the OVC. SEMO, 4-7 record, 3-4 in the OVC. 27 seniors being honored today, so pretty special there for SEMO. Last game at Houck Stadium. SEMO with a 2-1 record in their history against Lindenwood, hoping to get another win today. But again, talking about the senior group, definitely a solid group of seniors departing on and playing on their final day. Hopefully, seniors can go out winners at home, and they're going to have to replace some of those guys that have been into the program. And for Lindenwood, as you look at the matchup today, they can throw it. They can throw it. One of the top passing games in the entire league. Have to limit that passing game today. If SEMO can do that, maybe get some pressure on the quarterback. They have a shot today. I like them at home. Hopefully there's a decent crowd today at Houck Stadium. Look, I'm gonna go ahead and call it. I'm going to go ahead and call it a W. Why not? I'm saying a W today for the Red Hawks, going out on a high note, winning their 5th game of the year, going forward conference. That's what I'm saying today. Let's go. Red Hawks, I'm calling a win. All right, look, it's been a little bit of a disappointing year for them. Injuries, adversity certainly has hit, but just need to continue to try to find improvement. Get better for next year. But also, you think about it, it kind of shows where the standard has been set with Coach Tuke and what he's built here at SEMO. A little bit of disappointment, even though they've had, some solid play. Injuries affected him. But they're going to be back, and hopefully next year continue to recruit well. And hopefully SEMO, again, can end on a high note. And then we get into the SEMO basketball season. I think SEMO basketball is going to be fun as well. But how about SEMO volleyball? Okay, SEMO volleyball. Regular season is wrapped up. The OVC bracket is out. SEMO volleyball has kind of had a reign and been one of the best teams over the past several seasons. Can they get hot? They're coming in as a number 4 seed. It's not going to be easy for them. SEMO volleyball, we'll see. We'll see what they can do. I give them a shot. Can they get hot and kind of go on a run? That's going to be key for them. I think they have the talent to do it. So good luck to the SEMO volleyball team. That's going to be starting the OVC bracket here this week. All right, last thing before we go to break, and then coming up here in just a few minutes, we're going to talk with co-lead of SEMOBALL, Caleb DeLoach of Exit 99 Sports, Withers Broadcasting. Caleb's going to have the call today for Withers. We'll have the call today. Ryan Tate's going to join us, he's going to be on Mike FM today, 93.9. You want to check that out on the airwaves this afternoon for that 1 o'clock game for Jackson CBC. We'll break that down in a minute, so stay tuned for that. Last thing I'll get to, we have in the NFL, if you're a Chiefs fan, this is a big, big weekend. Big weekend. Chiefs and Colts at noon. They have to find a way. Their playoff hopes are going to be dwindling. They play at home at Arrowhead. I like that at home. Like them at home. They're a much better team at home. It's going to be a short week, though, after the game today. Then they'll play on Thanksgiving Day, Thanksgiving afternoon against the Cowboys. So, going to be a couple of interesting games. Will they make the playoffs? I'm not ready to say no yet, but it's definitely getting shaky. For whatever reason, I don't get this, but for whatever reason, the spread is -3.5 for the Chiefs. I don't get it. They're 5-5. The Colts are 8-2. I don't get it. Look, the Chiefs, can they limit Jonathan Taylor, the best running back in the game right now? Can they limit him a little bit? I like them stopping the run a little bit. Not completely stopping Jonathan Taylor, but limiting him. I like them against the run. I do. Patrick Mahomes and company, they got to get the offense going. They're going to have to score some points. Can they do it at noon on Sunday? Big game for them. I'm picking the Colts, unfortunately. But look, Chiefs got to find a way. If they lose again on Sunday, I mean, you're talking about really, really putting pressure on themselves for making the playoffs. They really are. All right, we're going to take a break. Talking Jackson CBC, the matchup, coming up next here on the SEMO Scramble. Stay with us. Welcome back. SEMO Scramble here on SEMO ESPN Radio, 1220 AM, 93.5 FM, and online, SEMOESPN.com. And live in studio, we have a couple of guys with us. Have Cole Lee of SEMOBALL and Caleb DeLoach of Exit 99 Sports Podcast. Check him out there. And also Withers Broadcasting. He'll be on the call today for the Jackson CBC game. Both of you guys will be at the pit today. I mentioned it earlier, guys, but I saw a little post earlier from our buddy Ryan Tate. He's going to be on the call for us for Mike FM. Apparently, the first fans started lining up at around 6 a.m. this morning at the pit.
Yeah, that checks out. You know, the Indian faithful is pretty much unlike any other, honestly, in Southeast Missouri when it comes to their football love and adoration. It is a football town, one of the really true, born and bred football towns here in Southeast Missouri.
It's going to be an unreal atmosphere. I mean, for example, I won't name names, but, I have a few people that I work with. Never been to a Jackson football game this year, or probably in a couple of years. They were talking about, hey, I think I want to go to the Jackson football game today. And I'm like, really? I mean, you're talking about people coming out of the woodworks. They're going to be there, standing room only. It's going to be insane. How much of an edge, guys, do you give the pit today for the Indians?
It's always huge. Being able to be at the pit, I think it's pretty well understood that it ranks as one of the best home field advantages in the state of Missouri just because of the architectural nature of it, because of how many people fill in there. I honestly think it could be in the future to build more stands at the pit because they have a hard time keeping those empty. I mean, it is a phenomenal home field atmosphere. I have heard rumors that CBC decided to play this one on Saturday because they didn't want to play at Jackson at night. It could have also been the rain a little bit, but I think that Jackson does have a big upper hand in this game, largely because of the home field advantage, but I think it's still going to be a really tight one.
So 2 undefeated teams, in my opinion, you could argue, I think easily 2 of the top 4 teams in the entire state. I think you can easily make that argument. This is going to be a clash here today. 2 high-powered offenses, guys that average over 50 points a game. To me, the separator and the X factor today is the Jackson defense. Can Jackson slow down the Cadets' offense a little bit today? And a big question mark to a lot of fans locally is coming in is like, hey, Jackson team, they've only played about, a half of a game, for each game this year because they've been blowing out teams. What are they going to do when adversity hits? What are they going to do when the game's close? Maybe if they're behind. So those are some of the questions coming in, but let's break it down. We'll start with Caleb. What are you looking forward to today? As we break things down in this game, this matchup, what's the path for Jackson to win?
Well, you mentioned the Jackson defense is going to have to do a lot of the, heavy lifting here. They have their hands full with the guy Nick McClellan. Nick McClellan at quarterback for CBC is one of the most explosive, entertaining athletes in the entire state. If they do go on to win this game, he's definitely poised to be the Class 6 Player of the Year. Just last week in a game that they scored 77 points, yes, 77, against an undefeated Lafayette team, he put up 140 yards passing. He had 200 yards rushing. He's a guy, if you give an inch to, he will pick up 10, 20, 30, 40 yards on the ground. So how they control and contain Nick McClellan in this ball game will be pretty much the end-all, be-all for Jackson's defense.
So real quick before we get to Cole, 3,500 yards. 3,500 that's a lot, and that's even more than some teams put up this year.
Yeah, McClellan.
That's just Nick McClellan.
He's one of the best athletes you'll see. Like if if you're a Southeast Missouri person, you want to pull for Jackson, but you're going to get to see one of the best pure athletes you'll get to see on a football field today, Nick McClellan.
Yeah, with rushing and passing involved, Nick McClellan. Look, they got a good running back as well for CBC. Vic Williams, over 1,400 yards this year. But Coley, in your opinion, as you eat a Krispy Kreme donut, what is your path for Jackson to win today?
I'll tell you, man, you give us 12 donuts. You don't give us any time to eat.
I know.
You just force us right on the air, and I'm sitting here trying to eat them. I haven't had anything today. So that's a winning.
Yeah, Caleb, I'm forcing him the Krispy Kreme down his forcing it to him. Yeah. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
On Thursday, talked to Eric Sean on here about kind of unlocking Drew Parsons, and I think that's going to be a big deal today because it's really important to understand how he made a really good point about just the management of Drew Parsons and how he kind of wasn't allowed to go do his thing these past 9 weeks or so, just because they're trying to keep him healthy for this point in the playoffs. We really haven't seen any designed runs. We haven't seen any read option, anything like that for Drew Parsons, just because they're trying to keep his legs healthy. So we get to a phase like this, we're going to finally get to see him open up that run game, I'm sure. And between him and Hampton, it kind of reminds me of how we felt about like Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry last year, where you got 2 guys who can just take the ball and freaking go. Those 2 are both phenomenal runners. I think Drew Parsons that was something that I really harped on him last year when he started to struggle a little bit in games like Edwardsville. I started to question his field vision. I think he has the best field vision of any quarterback in Southeast Missouri. I don't think that's a stretch at all. He just sees the field so well, and that is a far cry from where he was in 2023 against this CBC team where he throws 4 picks in the second half. I think the X factor in this game is Drew Parsons feeling comfortable in the pocket, having a clean pocket, which was something they really struggled with against Cardinal Ritter earlier this season. With those 2 phenomenal tackles, if that interior offensive line can keep Drew safe, keep him comfortable there, I think he will be able to help Jackson's offense score a very fair amount of points in this game. And as easily as CBC seemed to score last week, it's going to look a lot harder today.
I agree. Some things that could be separated. Because, look, if you have two teams that are really good, this time of the year, start talking about mistakes being the difference maker, right? Penalties, turnovers, those are always important in big games, right? Field position batter, things of that nature. What about special teams? Could special teams be a factor? Memphis Maddox, a guy that's returned a couple of kickoffs for touchdowns. I mean, could that be a factor? I mean, what else comes to mind, Caleb?
No, the special teams is going to be huge, especially against a team like CBC, who is loaded with unbelievable athletes all over the field. Especially, Jackson has had their fair share of special teams issues this season. Early it was PAT problems. They've had some punt issues a couple times here and there. They gave up 3 kick return touchdowns in 2 ball games late in the season. You could tell that was an emphasis going into the district tournament. Coach Nesbitt, Coach Gonzalez, they were really on those guys every time there was a kickoff. They were hyping them up. They've been doing a lot better containing these guys. But, I mean, last week, I think Corday Gage and Vic Williams had a kick return touchdown for CBC. But like you said, on the flip side, Jackson has guys like Maddox, like Reagan, who are, phenomenal track speed, you hear all the time type of guys. And they have a big chance to flip the field. Things like that, like you said, the little things. Obviously, football is always a simple sport. You talk about the 2 biggest things every week, who's going to win the line of scrimmage and who's going to win turnover battle.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, that's probably going to be a big, big impact here of who can keep drives alive in 3rd and 3, 4th and 1 type situations. And then whoever wins the turnover battle, I think, is probably going to win the football game.
Yeah, tell someone who watched the Festus game that special teams can't factor into this. I mean, that was horrible. It was only 21-21 because the special teams couldn't seem to stop Festus at all. Can you pass me the Germex? It's right there.
And I'll be honest, I don't know anything about CBC and their kicking game. I don't know if they're a team that likes to go for extra points or 2-point convert. I don't know. Maybe you guys could help me.
They're a PAT team.
Okay, but also I know you mentioned in your story in the preview. You can check it out on SEMOBALL.com. Again, Coley of SEMOBALL with us, Caleb DeLoach, Exit 99 Sports and Withers Broadcasting. But Cole, in your piece, you talked about all the guys for CBC that have gotten offers or maybe committed to different schools that are getting looks. All these, galore, right?
Yeah, they are the poster child for, sending kids to the next level in the Show Me State.
So I ask this: how important is it then? Again, I think CBC, if you'd ask most people, actually, I remember seeing a poll online. I think it was by Missouri Sports Network. I believe they on Twitter, X. They did a poll. I think there was something like 60% voted for CBC to win. So I think they're the favorite, right? I think that's pretty fair to say.
I think that 60-40 mark is pretty much where my head's been for this game, realistically.
So my question is, for Jackson, how important is it for them to get off to a good start, maybe build a lead? Because if they get down 7-0, 14-7, how is it going to be tougher for them to come back rather than trying to hold the lead?
I don't remember how the 2023 game started. I really couldn't tell you who scored first. I think it was Jackson, but I'm not positive. End of the day, they were up 17-14 at halftime. They had a really solid chance to win that. You can't play out of a deficit in this game because CBC just has too much momentum. I think that CBC is way too good to try to play back from. I don't think that necessarily means that Jackson has to score first, but if Jackson goes down 2-3 scores in this one, it'll be a little bit over too quickly, I think.
Yeah, and I call back to week 1 when Jackson played Cardinal Ritter. I think a big reason that Jackson was able to kind of feel confident in that ball game was the fact that they hit the big 50-yard touchdown run early in the game by Jalen Hampton. I think that's something Jackson's going to need is to, like you said, maybe score first, score early, or be the team that hits the first big play of the game.
Get the crowd behind you, right?
Yeah.
It's different. You mentioned, obviously, the pit at night is different on a Friday night, but it's still going to be raucous to hear, this afternoon. Do we have predictions, guys? Do we want to say it?
Don't say the P word.
Do we want to say it?
We did this with Eric Shawn. I don't want to pick against Jackson again. That's so lame.
You can change your mind. It's a new day.
It is fair. I mean, Jackson is definitely the underdog. I mean, people talk about the CBC team. They say things like the best offense we've ever seen, best offense in the Midwest. The CBC offense is a truly special type of group. And we just don't know. Jackson hasn't seen this type of athlete, but they haven't necessarily played a Jackson either, you could say, on the flip side. And so, yeah, I mean, if I'm picking who's going to win, I'm going to lean CBC for sure still at this point. But, I'm going to be rooting against that my own prediction there.
Of course. We can leave Cole out of this. We already know.
I mean, if I say Jackson, I'm a homer. I feel like if anyone picks against CBC, they are either just trying to be different or
I get it.
They don't have a full grasp of the game. I think at this point it's very safe to say that CBC is a large favorite. I don't know. Is doing my predictions just being like,
what
I
does
think
the
Jackson's
computer say, right?
The computer says that CBC would win by 10 points on a neutral site. Now, depending on how much you think that the pit advantage is worth, that could go all the way to even. But I don't know. It's really tough to say.
It feels like a real coin flip type of game because I mean, you said in the open, they're CBC is number 1 in the state as far as teams left in Class 6. You could say Jackson's maybe 3 probably left out of the teams here. So
out of the rest of the state, I don't know if Jackson's necessarily 4 across all classes because I would say that Platte County is like a step below CBC. But I would say that Jackson is at this point. I would say you would have to juggle between Nixa and Jackson to be number 2 left in the class at this point.
And Nixa won last night over Helias.
Yeah, it wasn't particularly close.
No, and we saw Lee Summit win over Liberty. They would take on the winner of Jackson and CBC. So if Jackson can win today, what do you think about the opponent next week?
Not a typical semifinal opponent. A little bit below a typical semifinal opponent.
Yeah, I'd say it's a little bit of a surprise on who ended up coming out of that bottom part of the bracket. And, if Jackson is able to get out, I'd give them the advantage in that ball game. I think they'd be the favorites, even going on the road, 4 hours across the state to Kansas City.
I don't think that, no disrespect to the teams that they play, because they have played some pretty solid teams this year. They're 8-4. They started 0-4. They got their quarterback back. They won 8 straight games, but they had a very front-loaded schedule. So I don't want to put too much stock into that 8-game winning streak because those games came against Staley type of teams that are going 4-7 in that Kansas City area. I'm not as too high up on those kinds of teams. I more so look at how their offense performs against those teams. I think that Jackson would be on the upper end of defenses they've played this year, and I think the offense would be the best they've played against this year. I really do think that Jackson has a very, very good chance of winning that, maybe by 2+ scores. But at the end of the day, I try not to think too far past this matchup. I will say as a guy who roots for all of my teams to be successful across Southeast Missouri, I will say I'm quite nervous for Jackson. I'm quite nervous for Dexter, and I got a good feeling Haytai's got this one in the bag. But
yeah.
I'm a little bit nervous for my guys today. They're playing some great teams.
All right, guys, we got to run. Appreciate you. Have a great call today, Caleb. He'll be there today at the pit. Cole Lee, make sure and check out his story after the game as well on SEMOBALL. So again, Cole Lee of SEMOBALL, Caleb DeLoach of Exit 99 Sports and Withers Broadcasting. Guys, appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having us on.
Thank you for having us.
You've been listening to the SEMO Scramble on SEMO ESPN.
You've been listening to the SEMO Scramble on SEMO ESPN. Tune in every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 for a dash of hometown pride and the latest news, scores, and stories that matter most to local sports enthusiasts from the Boot Heel and beyond. Right here on SEMO ESPN 1220 AM, 93.5 FM, the SEMO ESPN app, and SEMOESPN.com.